Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation on power clean technique. This is my friend Dion Gutierrez. I will be evaluating her technique of the power clean for this presentation. Here's a brief overview of the following presentation. I will first discuss the different biomechanical terms involved in the power clean as well as the muscles used. The different phases of the power clean will be noted, followed by the observation, evaluation, and instruction. The power clean is performed in two different planes of motion, the frontal, also known as the coronal plane, and the sagittal plane. The frontal plane divides the body into anterior and posterior halves, while the sagittal divides the body into left and right parts. The bar path is done in the frontal plane, while the elbows, hips, and knees move in the sagittal plane. As you can see, the power clean is a strength training exercise that involves all the major muscle groups of the body: the quadriceps, hamstrings, abdominals, biceps, etc. The power clean is a very technical lift that involves balance, coordination, timing, and explosive strength. The barbell itself adds a unique dynamic to this movement, as it has to be moved efficiently and effectively in order to successfully complete the lift. The amount of weight on the bar is a key factor in how much force is needed to complete the lift. The power clean is also a great example of the work-energy relationship, as energy is defined as the capacity to do work. In order to successfully complete the power clean, the athlete must use a great amount of energy to do the work or move the bar. Furthermore, as the athlete completes the lift, the different phases of the power clean produce different amounts of velocities and power. During the first pull, the force applied to the bar should increase the velocity of the bar from the ground to the knees. However, due to the technique during the transition phase, the force applied to the bar will decrease, consequently decreasing the velocity. However, as the athlete moves into the second pull of the power clean, this is where the greatest amount of force should be applied to the bar, and therefore the bar should have the greatest amount of velocity. This is the point of the movement where the greatest amount of power should be generated. As the athlete completes the second pull, the bar will reach its peak velocity and begin to decelerate. This is where the athlete moves under the bar, and this is known as the catch phase. As briefly mentioned in the biomechanical concepts, there are three phases of the power clean: the first pull, second pull, and the catch phase. However, you will notice that there is a transition phase in between the first and second pull. This phase is not a true phase, but is important to mention as it is a technical movement of the power clean. As you can see, Dion is performing the power clean. She is performing 2 repetitions of what the power clean looks like. Here's a diagram of a clean. Although it is not the power clean, I felt it was a great depiction of the different phases that occur throughout the movement. The only difference between a power clean and the clean is the depth of the catch phase. During the power clean, the athlete only bends their knees to 30 to 45 degrees, while during the full clean, the athlete reaches a full depth squat, which is below 90 degrees. I will now be discussing the ideal technique of the power clean. In the starting position, the hips and knees should be flexed, the back straight, and the core tight. The arms should be extended towards the floor and slightly backward from the vertical position. The lats should be contracted as if the athlete were pushing the bar into their shins. From here, the athlete will begin the first pull. The hips and shoulders should move into extension at the same rate while the back remains straight and tight. The bar is going to move upward and be closely pushed up against the shins, and this will be done by that contraction of the lats and the teres major. During the first pull, the velocity of the bar will also be increased. As the athlete completes the first pull, they will move into the transition. During the transition, the hips will move slightly forward, the knees will rebend under the bar, and the torso will shift to an almost vertical position. During this position, the velocity of the bar will slightly decrease. As they finish this transition, they will begin the second pull. During the second pull, the knees, hips, and ankles should all be extended, and when this happens, the athlete will have reached triple extension. During triple extension, the bar will remain close to the body and the shoulders will shrug. During this time, the velocity of the bar should be at its greatest point, and this is when the athlete will produce the most power. As the athlete reaches triple extension at the end of the second pull, they will then move themselves under the bar and move into the catch phase. In the catch phase, the knees will be slightly flexed between 30 and 45 degrees, the torso will be upright, and the weight will be in the heels. The elbows will also be in the high position, which is flexed and under the bar. I will now be evaluating the technique of Dion's power clean in phases. The first phase is the first pull. The technique that she uses is incorrect. Her knees extend first, and the timing between her hips and shoulders are off. The weight is in her toes when it should be in her heels. This increases the tension on the low back. As you can see, this is Dion's first pull. The first movement is that her knees extend, which throws the timing between her hips and her shoulders off. This also increases the tension in her low back. Because Dion extends her knees during her first pull, she loses some of the transition between the first and second pull. Instead of starting the second pull with more flex in the knee helping to generate more power, her knees have a lesser degree of flexion. This does not allow her to generate the most power and keep the bar accelerating during this phase. However, at the end of the second pull, she has reached the triple extension position. This allows her to move into the catch phase. As Dion moves from her first pull into her transition phase, you can see that before she begins her second pull, her knees are extended. This does not allow her to generate enough power under the second pull. Although not in the correct position at the beginning of the second pull, she is still able to reach the ending second pull position, known as triple extension, as her shoulders are shrugged, her hips extended, and her knees extended with her ankles plantar flexed. Because Dion has reached triple extension, she is able to receive the bar in the catch position and pull herself under the bar with her elbows through. Although Dion reaches triple extension and can get her elbows through and receive the bar in the catch position, the weight still remains in her toes. It should be in her heels. However, she does maintain an upright torso, and like I said, she's able to pull her elbows through to finish the lift. In order to correct this movement, Dion needs to keep her hips down and her knees bent. This is her corrected movement after instruction. As you can see, Dion's hips remain down and her knees bent during this first pull. This is a full screen shot of Dion's power clean after a corrected movement. Further recommendations for Dion would be to increase the flexibility of her calves. This will help her keep the weight off her toes throughout the movement. She should also continue to work on the transitions between pulls 1 and 2. This will help her develop the proper technique. Dion should also work to strengthen her lower back. This will help reduce any injury and alleviate pain to the low back when the lift is performed wrong. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on the biomechanical analysis of the power clean.